Hey, welcome back to our continued look at Hasbro's Transformers Combiner Wars Devastator figure here at the Fwoosh, and we are slowly but surely making our way through all the figures that combine to form Devastator. Up today is Mr. Hook, or just Hook. I added the Mr. He's not actually called Mr. Hook. Mr. Hook forms the head and the shoulders of Devastator, and I always thought when I was a kid watching the original Transformers cartoon that he should have been the leader of the team because, he's the head and all. I guess that was some, Voltron conditioning or something. But Scrapper, the left leg, of course, was always kind of depicted as the leader of the group. So here we have Mr. Hook, who, only forms the head. And like the other Constructicons, in vehicle mode, he looks pretty darn close to how he did back in 1984 or 1985, whenever it was that Devastator was released. And just like all the other Combiner Wars Constructicons, he is kind of simple in terms of design and execution. His winch here, or his hook, whatever you want to call it, his arm, does raise and lower, but that's all it does. It doesn't actually extend. There's nothing here to pull out, and this is just kind of painted silver, so it's just decorative. And it doesn't spin either. It's just kind of used in place, so that's all Hook can do in his vehicle mode. And the vehicle mode is very, very true to the G1 design. Look underneath here, we can kind of get a sense of where Mr. Hook is. We can almost see a fully formed robot under there. But like all the Constructicons, it is easiest to get him into his combiner mode from the vehicle mode here, so that's what I'm going to do first. So to do that, we kind of slide this portion back a little bit. It just goes a little bit, and that's all we got to do. Let's see. We got to flip his arms down, or his elbow to his wrist, or his hands, whatever you want to call them. And then that frees up both halves here. Now he's got a little peg here that flips down, and that eventually helps him lock into long haul. And then there's a peg here and a tab here. Those snap together. We can put the hook down, and then there's a little purple kind of box in the back here, and that's where Devastator's head is, and that just flips down and around. And that's pretty much it. In here, there's a little connector piece that holds on to, that's where Scrapper plugs in, and then there's another one over here. You might have to take my word for it, though, because it's designed for people who have actual fingernails, which I just do not have. But it's the same kind of thing as this. So again, you'll just have to take my word for it. And so down here, here's a plug, and there's a couple spots on the underside where he plugs into long haul. And he does plug in very, very securely. So don't fret or don't worry about that. Devastator's head does turn a little bit. And I guess we get some upward motion, but the whole kind of apparatus moves with it. So, yeah. But it looks pretty cool. Very, very close to the G1 design. So let's get him back in his vehicle mode, and then we'll transform him to his robot mode. And to do that, just the reverse of what I was doing before. We can flip this portion up, unlock that, and snap those two halves back in place. Flip his arm up, and move that forward. And there's Hook back in his vehicle mode. So let's get him in his robot mode then. Pretty simple process, like all the Constructicons, fortunately. Here we can pull out his arms, and they fold down a little bit. And if you want to, these basically form his elbows. It's kind of a janky little design. His head is literally just flipped around. So all we got to do is turn that around. And then in the back here, this is on something of a hinge, and that just pushes down a little bit, so that is almost his robot mode. The leg design is very similar to Scrapper. The front part just folds down like this, and then we can separate them, and then the back portions flip down and tab in and lock into the front portions. It's a pretty simple system. And there is Hook in his robot mode. And it's not a bad looking robot mode either. It looks very, very, very G1. Very faithful to the source material. there is, again, another in a series of very stoic expressions on his face. Now, in terms of articulation here, his head can go side to side, of course. It looks like to be on something of a ball joint. He gets a little bit of forward and backward motion there, up and down. The arms have a good range of motion, but they're kind of hindered by his shoulder things here. So, I mean, that's something you just have to work around. And he's got these weird elbows. Weird elbows. Ooh, let me zoom out a little bit here because I think I might be blocking out some of what we're looking at. Yeah, so the elbows are kind of weird. They're kind of a bummer, but at least he has them, unlike Scrapper. Legs, full 90 degrees here. Semi-decent knee articulation. Not quite a full 90, but almost. And then he can definitely do the splits. I'm not sure how well balanced he is. I don't know if I'm going to get him to balance on one leg. Probably not. Anyway, that's not important. Hook wasn't known for doing karate kicks. And he's got something of a ankle rocker. I mean, they go inward like this, but not outward. So we do get some articulation there. And then just in terms of size, here he is with Wild Rider, or Breakneck as we're now calling him. And Hook is definitely a Voyager class. He's considerably larger than the average deluxe size figure, combiner figure. So, and what's interesting is that the Constructicons are definitely dedicated. I mean, you can't form Devastator using anything else. I know with the other Combiner War figures here, they're very mix and match, even between Autobots and Decepticons. But the Constructicons, there's only one way to put Devastator together. Which kind of sucks, because it'd be neat to use Prowl for the torso and the head, but that's where the third-party teams come in. So, I mean, from the backside, I mean, there's nothing you can really do with this. It's just kind of there. And honestly, it does help him stand a little bit, because evidently my guy likes to be folly over. So the Hook literally saves him from toppling. So not too bad. So yeah, that is Hook. Part of the Hasbro Transformers Combiner Wars Devastator figure. We've got one last figure to look at, just long haul next, and then we'll be looking at the fully combined Devastator mode. So make sure you check back with us real soon. And as always, thanks for checking us out here, and we'll see you again shortly.